My name is Eva Avila. I'm a singer, songwriter, actor, and backing vocalist. I'm a proud Canadian, born and raised in Quebec, and my dad is Peruvian. And I've been singing since the age of 2.5, more or less. So I've lived in Canada my whole life until I started touring so much. And being married to an Italian, we live in Italy, but I am back in Canada as often as I can to visit my family and sometimes to work on certain films or TV shows. And then the rest of the time I live on the tour bus or in a hotel room or in a dressing room. So sometimes I don't know where I live. I've been submerged in music since I was very, very little, since I was a toddler, basically. My dad is a self-taught musician and singer, and he had a music studio at home, and I manifested my musical interest very, very young. Started singing, performing, anything musical. I was very, very attracted to quite young. The first time I performed in public, it was at the Byward Market in Ottawa. My dad was a street busker, but not just any street busker. He had an entire setup with multiple keyboards, amps, speakers, 2 guitars. And the first time I performed in public was there with him. I was probably 3 years old. My first local television appearance was a contest called Homegrown Cafe. As a child, I took musical theater lessons. I was part of some local theater productions. I took acting lessons, did a few commercials. And then when I was about 14, 15 years old, I started working with a local agent. In 2006, I was 19. At the time, I was working full-time at a local post office. I decided to audition for Canadian Idol on a whim because up until that point, I wasn't very keen on the idea. My family and friends were trying to convince me to audition. Didn't really want to go. And on that morning of the auditions, I think it was a Sunday morning, I decided on the spot, I said, okay, why not? Sort of reluctantly went to do the audition. And 2.5 months later, I was announced the winner on live television.
Canada voted. The next Canadian Idol is Eva Avila.
It was probably the experience, the opportunity that catapulted my career for sure into the professional world. Because up until then, I would consider myself semi-professional. My singing career was very part-time, even though I knew it's what I wanted to do full-time eventually. But after Canadian Idol, it was, there was no going back. It was like full on, record deal, tours, endorsements. Thanks to the opportunity that I got through Canadian Idol, I was able to do some extraordinary things and live extraordinary experiences that I don't think, well, we'll never know, but I probably wouldn't have gotten if it wasn't for Idol. Opening for Beyonce, performing at the closing ceremonies of the 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympics, spokesmodels, contracts with Spring Shoes, Sony Electronics. For a few years after Idol, it was like one thing after the other, like nonstop. I recorded 2 albums with Sony BMG. First one was recorded right after the competition ended, produced by Rob Wells, who to this day is still one of my dear friends, one of the most talented songwriters and producers on the planet. And second album was recorded in LA, produced by Matt Wallace, Maroon 5 fame, amongst others. And then my third EP I recorded much later, so in like 2013, 2014, and I got a distribution deal with Entertainment One Canada. And that album is very special to me because I co-wrote everything. So that it's very, very personal. I'm very proud of that album. I'm proud of all 3 albums, obviously. They each tell a different story. So I had been singing the Pink Floyd repertoire since 2011. I was working with a Montreal-based cover band. My very first performance with them, we were doing the entire album The Wall, and I was a backing vocalist doing the soprano part. So I discovered the whole Pink Floyd universe around that time. So in 2017, I get a cold message from Damien. He said he came across a video of one of my performances of Great Gig in the Sky. He asked if I was interested and available to join the remainder of the American tour to finish that year. I was pleasantly surprised to get that message. Did not expect it. And I had to shuffle a little bit with my schedule, but obviously I was, ecstatic and I accepted. That year ended and I did the remainder of the tour and loved my experience, loved everybody in the band, loved being on stage in such a production. And after the long winter break, they asked me if I wanted to come back for the following year. And of course I said yes. So here is the Centre Culturel du Vieux-Elmer. It's the venue where I played my first solo show. I think it was 45 minutes to an hour tops. I was very nervous. I was 16 years old. My entire family, all my friends from school, everyone was there. It's a very small, intimate venue, super charming, kind of like cabaret style, very intimate, very cozy. Yeah, I can't remember exactly the date, but I know I was 16 and it was my first ever solo show. That show was probably the first time I performed and sang at the piano, accompanying myself, playing and singing. This place is very special to me. So in Brit Floyd, I have the very, very big honor and privilege and also responsibility to perform an iconic piece of music, The Great Gig in the Sky. The first time I ever heard that song, I think it was I don't remember how old I was, but I was a teenager for sure. And it was in a movie called Crazy, a Québécois movie directed by Jean-Marc Vallée. And the soundtrack of that film was almost all Pink Floyd songs. And I remember hearing that and I was like, well, that is special. That is a powerful piece of music. And, there's no lyrics. It's just, a scream of the heart, and it could literally be interpreted through any lens, any emotion, any feeling. And then fast forward to years later, I was working with a Montreal-based cover band, and we were doing a lot of Pink Floyd. And the band leader comes to me and he says, hey, how do you feel about learning this solo? But I was up for it. I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. I mean, it's definitely like a Mount Everest for any female vocalist on the planet. The range, the vocal acrobatics, the subtleties and the power, it's just such a special, special song. So powerful. And I remember when I first learned that song, it was summer of 2013. I wanted it to be as authentic as possible. I wanted to replicate it note for note and respect the original version of it by Claire Torrey. So I remember for weeks, probably like a solid 2 weeks, Like from the moment when I knew I had to learn it to the day that I had to perform it. And I remember just spending hours and hours locked in my Montreal apartment, just like listening to it over and over again, and then slowly start singing along. And even though there's no words, I still had to learn the melody by heart. You know, the technical aspect was to first learn the notes, and then learning how to emote the performance, the vocal delivery. So that was 10 years ago, and to this day, I think it's the kind of song that one will always want to perfect until the end of time. It's a very tall order, but it's such a privilege because it's such a powerful moment in the show. People expect that song. It is a privilege for sure, and I feel honored to have that role. I absolutely love fall, especially October. It's my favorite month. Fall is where the magic happens, when the magic happens. Here we are at the Elmer Marina, and there's also a huge park that longs the river, the Ottawa River. And this park is home to a lot of festivities, especially around June 24th, Saint Jean-Baptiste, which is Quebec's national holiday. So a lot of entertainment, a lot of food, a huge stage at the end of the park on which I performed quite a few times. A very, very musical time and celebration. All year long, this place is really special because in the summertime, it's, you know, there's the beach, people bring their dogs, families spend entire days here, you can swim, picnic. I have a lot of memories here, so this place is very special to me. When I joined Brit Floyd, I got to meet a lot of interesting people, including Ito, who with time ended up being my husband. And the fact that we can tour together and travel together is quite a gift because this job takes us away from home 8 months out of the year, more or less. So it's a lot of time on the road, and to be away from family, be away from loved ones, to be away from home for so long, it can take quite a toll. So having the opportunity to share the road and share this job with my husband, it makes everything a little bit easier. All the traveling and all the jet set life. So my first love is obviously music and singing and performing, but I'm also an actress. I've done lots of things, from commercials to voiceover work to cartoon voices, quite a few small parts in television series. In the past few years, I was very, very lucky, and I got to work on a couple of films. One of them being an independent film called Le Coyote, or Coyote. And it was featured at the Toronto International Film Festival in September 2022. And it won quite a few awards throughout various film festivals all over the world. I love acting. It's something that I've always really liked and that I would like to do a lot more of. I'm very lucky that I was able to juggle both touring and acting. I wish I could clone myself so I could do everything. If you're curious to take a look at my films, my recent films, we'll link the information and the links to the streaming platforms or release dates in our description box. And while I'm at it, I would like you to please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. We want to get to 1 million subscribers to our channel, so hit, share with your friends.